Hello, you've reached episode 85 of season 3 of Mouse and Weens. We have a special guest today. We are interviewing Alison Arngrim, who played mean Nellie Oleson on the TV show Little House on the Prairie. It ran for years. We all grew up on it, one of our favorites, and we hear all the stories from her. She's got so many old Hollywood stories and behind the scenes of filming. We split this into part 1 and part 2. So until then, we hope you enjoy this show. If you aren't a fan of commercials, also please go to patreon.com to get all of these episodes commercial free, plus bonus features, shout outs, and outtakes, all sorts of fun stuff. Speaking of which, we would like to shout out our newest patrons, Alexander and Jody. Thank you so much for your support. You are awesome. And we love you from the bottom of our hearts. What part of the family do you guys want to be? Cousins? We could take another sister, another brother. Just let us know. All right, we'll talk to you soon and enjoy the show.
Mouse and Weens and a 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 mouse and Weens, mouse and Weens and a mouse and Weens, mouse and Weens.
Everything to be grand. There it is. Come on.
There it is. You got it.
Yeah, my thing was trying to talk to me through my other thing. What?
Oh.
Yes.
Well, let's launch into it. We have so many questions. We're just so honored that you're here. Thank you very, very much.
Yes, absolutely.
And Joe, you take it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we should do introductions too. So I'm Joelle. My nickname is Mouse. I'm the big sister. I'm down in San Diego. Hello, nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Julianne, who is the other half of the podcast, Weens, and I'm in LA. So I'm close to you. And I'm close.
How do you know Steve?
Steve is a wonderful person. I've known him from the neighborhood, and he lives right down the street. I've been to his place a couple times, a few groceries, and he's talked about you. And we just got a conversation about you one time. And he's a lovely human being. I just adore him. We go to the same Saturday group that talks about Sermon on the Mount, if he's ever mentioned that.
Oh, yes, he has. Well, yeah, he's on the internet constantly between the chorus and all the things that he does. It's like huge. And so I've been doing his laundry, and you probably heard. So yeah, because there's no one. How is there no washer and dryer in that fancy place? So, like why? But there's no washer and dryer in the building, and he was going to the laundromat, but you can't really do that now. So yeah.
Aww,
Yeah, you're such a beautiful, bless you and bless him. You're a beautiful person for doing that, though.
Well, I've known him since 1986.
Wow. Amazing. And that was when you were
sick, better, much better, sick, way better, sick, then better.
Oh my God.
I mean, he's almost died 3 times in the time I've known him, and I came in late to the party. He'd already died a few times.
he talks about that. He really, really is an in the moment kind of guy now, which is cool.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, we're going to do a podcast with him as well. He's so fascinating.
Oh my God, you have to use it. Like the best interview ever. Yes.
Oh.
Joe,
take it, because I know you wanted to. Joelle is such a fan of yours. And
thanks for being here.
So am I, but
Yes. Well, okay. So if you guys don't already know, I'm sure we're going to do a little preamble, but we have with us today Alison Arngrim. She played Nellie Oleson, America's original bad girl, original mean girl. And she's here with us today. Look, yay.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Yay.
Yes, and we are on YouTube too. So if you're hearing this as a podcast, be sure to click over to YouTube and you can watch us and our 3 lovely faces as we swirl around here. But Alison, we did such a deep dive on everything that you've been up to, but we want to hear it from you. There's so much. Holy moly.
Yes.
You are busy, and you've been busy since the very beginning. Tell us about kind of your back. Well, let me give you a little intro here. First of all, we found out that you are a New York Times best-selling author. You have a book out called Confessions of a Prairie Bitch: How I Survived Nellie Oleson and Learned to Love Being Hated. Did I get it right? Was that it?
Yes, you did. You did.
And we can get it on all the places we get our books. But where is your favorite vendor to find that book? Where do you like sending people?
Wow. Because I mean, of course, now everything, people getting things on Amazon or the Barnes and Noble site, and then there's the audio book, and of course, Kindle. It's but there is a bookstore now. I'm not gonna remember the name. It's a huge bookstore in Portland.
Okay.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Everybody knows that bookstore, and it starts with a P.
And I did a book signing there, and apparently I'm very popular in Portland.
So your book was great. I listened to it. I did an Audible version of it, which is great. I think it's also on, you can go to walnutgrove.org and ask for a signed copy. So tell us about Walnut Grove. What is Walnut Grove?
My page, absolutely, because Walnut Grove and also Mansfield, Missouri, and DeSmet, South Dakota, and all of these historical sites where Laura really lived have museums, and they have events, and they would, every year they would have these gigantic festivals where they would have a pageant. And of course, this year they're like, but they're all doing it online. In fact, next week, there's a whole Walnut Grove online version of the pageant where they're interviewing celebrities and historians, and my turn is actually the 24th. I will be on the online Walnut Grove evening
nice
thing. So we're just keeping it all going. But they all sell my book. But if you also go to Square, it's a lovely thing you put on your phone so you do credit cards and autograph shows. I have an online Square store. It says Loose Gravel Productions or Not Your Mother's Mercantile. And you can tell it's me, it's the picture of Nellie Oleson. But Square Store, and I've got the book. I have bonnets. I have tin cups.
Look how cute.
We have bonnets. We have tin cups. We have the book. We have everything. Photos, just like stuff for days. This one's from Minnesota. Lovely, lovely things. And if you order it there, absolutely, I will autograph it and ship it out to you. I have a stack actually right over there of like a third of it.
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
that is a stack of bonnets and cups and books to be autographed and mailed later today.
That's so great. I love that you do that, and I love that you embrace this all. But let's go back to your history. So, in listening to your book, which I totally recommend if you couldn't gather.
It's so good.
You start in the olden days of Hollywood, of you and your childhood and Hollywood. But tell us a little bit about what was it like growing up in Hollywood and what the 60s, 70s?
In Liberace.
Right. Chateau Marmont.
It's so crazy. It's okay when I think of, to me, having grown 60s and 70s were like modern times, but now I feel like I'm, Mary Pickford talking about, in 1910. So it's like a long time ago. But yeah, my family came up from New York into absolutely the heart of swinging 60s California. We lived at the Chateau Marmont. That's what you do when you come out from New York and you're actors, you go to the Chateau Marmont. And we're at the Chateau Marmont at the height of like total insanity when they had the demonstrations on the Sunset Strip because they were rioting over Pandora's box being closed and everything. And there was they flipped over a bus. That was downstairs.
Oh
and I have a story how I was like 5 and I was like, I heard my parents talk. I said, what's a riot? And they were trying to explain rioting. And I thought it was like a sporting event. I had no idea what the heck they were talking about. And I wasn't allowed on the balcony that day because my parents and the neighbors were all on the balcony drinking wine and laughing and like watching the police and the thing and the people in the streets. And they were like going, yay, the peasants are revolting and screaming, let them eat cake, because we were in a French castle.
Oh my God. It's nice to be the queen. Yeah.
So they were like, oh, this is really weird. We're in a French castle and people are revolting and having an uprising in the street in front of us. This is kind of nuts. So it was like that crazy. And we knew everybody. And then my father became a manager and started we worked for a company, Seymour Heller and Associates, and they had Debbie Reynolds and they had Liberace, they had everybody. And this was at the height of that stuff, the late 60s, early 70s. It was like height of Liberace madness when he was doing Vegas. And we had the rhinestone red, white, and blue shorts and the baton, and he had the jacket that lit up and he like flew over the stage and stuff.
Insane. I mean, but as a kid, you just loved him so much. So all different age ranges got him. Yeah.
Yes, everyone loved him, and it worked. It was the nuttiest act, and it worked. And that's what Liberace is the man who gave us the famous phrase, I cried all the way to the bank. And he said that because some reviewer were saying this show is ridiculous. I mean, yes, he can play the piano, but he's just like, it's absurd, and he's pandering to the lowest common denominator with the choices of songs, and what is he wearing? And really, seriously, this guy's whole personality, they went, this is trashy, it's terrible. But every show was sold out. He's at one point, he was the highest paid entertainer in the world. He's the gay Elvis. And he was, and he said, I read the review and I cried all the way to the bank. Because,
Smart man.
And he was very nice to work with. My dad, because he worked for Seymour. Did you see that Behind the Candelabra Cookie?
So good.
Dan Aykroyd played Seymour Heller. That was my dad's boss.
Oh my God.
When Dan Aykroyd, and the glasses and the suit, like dead on, when Dan Aykroyd, there was a little subtle thing. And the thing was, Debbie Reynolds was, that's what she did. So they had Debbie Reynolds in it playing Liberace's mother. But Debbie Reynolds was a client of Seymour. She knew Liberace and his mother.
Oh, that's funny.
It's crazy.
It would be like playing your friend from school's mom who you saw every day. So like she knew. So she's there. So she obviously told him, because Dan Aykroyd walks in and sits down. When he sat down, he went, "Humph." I screamed. I was like, because it was Seymour. That's what I was like, oh no, he made the haram. He did the haram. That's what my dad was with Seymour every day. So he said, go rent a house in the Hollywood Hills so you can be next to Liberace if he needs anything, and you'll cover the LA shows and I'll cover the Vegas. So I'm 8 years old, and let's go. We're going to see Liberace. Get dressed.
Oh my God.
And I like 8, and it was so fun. And that was the thing. And seriously, I said the book. He really did. They're like, shit, really, don't say anything, because no one must know that Liberace is gay.
Oh yeah, I had no idea. Can you believe it?
They didn't. That's why I said I'm 8. I know he's gay. But the fans, they loved him. They loved these women. They were in love with him. But they knew on some kooky level, because they were like, oh, he's so gay. He's that way, They knew. It's like if you said, is Liberace going to come off that stage and marry you? They would have gone, oh, come on.
Yeah.
They did know. But if you said, is he sexual? They would have said, oh, how dare you say such a thing? And like offended him to the death. So it was this very bizarre world, and they loved him, and that was it. And so, and everybody, they just dated him. They could not get enough Liberace. And having seen him live and having met him and seen him, it was brilliant. It was genius. It was just genius.
He's a showman. There's some people that are just naturally born show people. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And you're one of them, because you started at what age? You were 5?
Yeah, my Screen Actors Guild card says member since 1967.
Oh my God.
I have a union card by 5, yeah.
Did your parents totally support it? I mean, they were both in the business. Were they happy, or did they go, we've seen too much? And
they were like, because they were like, really? Okay, well, here we go. Okay. And they did. And then, of course, it was like, yes, everybody gets a job. Yay. And as I said, I thought everybody was on TV when I was a little girl. I didn't know. Everybody I knew was on TV. You've seen everyone on television. So
you're hanging out with Liberace. Yes, at that point.
Chateau Marmont.
So you were comfortable on screen.
Yeah. I was already a working fool. And that's actually the funny thing, is because people talk about having a comeback, but actually Little House was the comeback.
From that.
I
had that much before. Oh my gosh.
Whole career. And then I did a movie when I was 10. That was the thing in the book with Richard Egan and Dina Merrill, and I got a pet possum in my hotel room, and this whole bizarre thing that happened. And then I come back and I'm auditioning for stuff, and my folks are like, well, just did a movie, should get some good. But I wasn't getting anything. And I was all of 11. It's getting old. And
yeah, you're over it.
11. Old in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And my father said, you're not really booking. You had the picture, you're not really booking. And it might be over. Now, you might be one of those people who doesn't work again till they're 18, till they're an adult, or you might never work again, or you could get something, but you have to brace yourself that may have been the whole run. And you were just one of those child actors, and you don't work as a teenager, or you work later, or that might be it. And so I was washed up at 11, and then I got Little House on the Prairie at 12.
Yes,
so that was the comeback role. I already had a career and it was over, and then I got Little House. So I'm on my 57th comeback. So
I know. You're like our friend Steve.
I come back. We just keep coming back. Like, I'm back. back. It's like,
I know. Better than ever.
Oh
So
my
what
gosh.
was that like, the interview? There's such a cool story behind that when you went and auditioned for Little House.
well, I've been going to like millions of auditions when you're a kid actor. And this is something I always explain to people who are like really young, want to go in the business, the parents want to put their kids in. It's like you might audition 100 times and then get something. Literally that many times. You go to millions of auditions, and then you might wind up actually getting some, become a huge star. But people go to a lot of auditions. I went to an audition, and it was a go-see. I got all dressed up, and it was dead friendly. They were talking about making the show from the books. He said, we're making a show from these books. I hadn't read the Little House books. So I thought, well, I did not get that. But then I came back and I read again for this, and I was like, it's like this is like part of Laura, because they saw everybody for Laura. And then I came back and read again, which was like Mary, and I'm coming back and reading like again, and I go like, this show, are they making this thing? And then it stopped. I didn't get anything, and then they made the pilot, and I saw there was the pilot with Michael Land and the girls. So I was like, great. Then I get a call to come read for Little House on the Prairie. And I'm like, we did this. The pilot's already aired. Oh, no, the thing's been sold. Now there's a whole cast of characters apparently in the town. Who knew? I haven't read the books. Clueless. We go there, and it's my father and I. And I get the sides, the pages, and I start reading them. And that's when I turned to my father and I said, this is not a normal part. This girl's a total bitch. And I said, no, this is terrible. And I start reading it, and it's all the like, I don't think the country girls have a penny. What do you think, Willie? And of course, it's also the famous, my home is the best home in all of Walnut Grove. We really on all the windows. I'm like, who talks like this? Oh my God, this woman, who is she?
Ooh, you just creeped me out.
and she's like 12. And that's the thing too, because like you don't normally, and I talked about in the book, most child actor parts. Yes, mother. Yes, father. And here's this girl going, whatever. And she like hates everyone. Like, what is happening? So I said, this is not normal. And I read it for my father. He starts laughing. And he says, you read it like that. And I said, what? And he goes, no, don't read it again. Don't rehearse it. He said, put the pages down. Don't even look at them.
Wow.
Put the pages down. Do not even look at them again. You go in and you read it exactly like that. Just read it like that. Don't change it. Don't do it. Don't even breathe. I was like, awesome. Go in. There's Michael Landon and Kent McRae and from the producer, and they're all jammed on this couch, and I'm sitting in front of them. And I'm really tiny for my age. I'm like this big, and I'm in like jeans and a t-shirt. But I sit there and I read this thing, and they start howling with laughter. They're like dying, and I'm reading my home is the best home in all of Walnut Grove. And the thing that got them was we have 3 sets of dishes. One for every day, one for Sunday, and one for when someone very important comes to visit, which we have never even used yet. So, not awesome. At that age, get the joke that this idiot is bragging about her damn dishes, but nobody's coming to visit. You live in Walnut Grove, Minnesota. You don't know anyone important. The Queen is not coming. Yeah. So I thought, oh, that's hysterical that she says this. So I played it that I knew what was happening in the scene. Maybe 12-year-olds didn't all know that. So they're screaming bloody murder. And they said, could you do it again, please? And I said, yes, what would you like me to change? And they literally, tears rolling down his face. Michael goes, nothing to see the thing about the house again.
They loved it. The comedy. Well, you could just see you coming out too. So they loved it. That's awesome.
I did again. They screamed again. And literally we drove home, and it was like, I don't know, half an hour from Paramount at that point. And my agent was already on the phone saying, you have the job and the wardrobe fitting which is done. I had to, the speed with which they had to have called my agent, made a deal. And then my agent called us. I had to the door is closing. They were like dialing my agent.
Yeah. Did you know that you nailed it too? Did you have that feeling?
Yeah.
You had no idea.
It wasn't accustomed to seeing 3 grown men who were total strangers laugh so hard that tears ran down their face on me. I was like, okay, I think I've hit some kind of a nerve, apparently. Yeah. I don't know what that was, but yikes. Yeah.
We're sponsored by the Homeschool Buyers Co-op. Keeping my kids busy and on track with school has been overwhelming. There are a million choices online. That's why I'm so excited to find the Homeschool Buyers Co-op. They've done the work for me, researching and listing the best curriculum organized by grade level. And because of their large buying power, I get up to 90% off retail prices. They even have classifieds for used materials. So visit homeschoolbuyerscoop.org and use referral code WEENS to sign up for free and get 5,000 smart points towards your purchase. That's homeschoolbuyersco-op.org, referral code WEENS. Have fun.
Even though we live abroad, as women of Indian origin, we have a common thread that binds us together because of our strong cultural background. NRI Women is a platform for women to share their stories and experiences on various topics. Our podcast is about inspiring NRI women and their amazing stories.
Some of the stories we've covered include growing up in a joint family in India, adopting a child as a single woman, and rebuilding one's life after the loss of a child. Take a listen. We hope you'll be inspired or learn something new. I'm Bettina.
And I'm Lenora, and we're the voices behind NRI Women Podcast. We're all heart.
Just look for NRI Woman wherever you get your podcasts or find us at nriwoman.com. New episodes come out every Monday. Make sure you subscribe.
That's so fun. So did you love playing the villain? I mean, once you got on the set and you're shooting Little House, were you enjoying being that role? And where did you pull from? Did you have any idols, or how did you?
Well, I loved villains. I had watched horror movies growing up, and absolutely, the bad seed. Back then, you couldn't TiVo stuff or say, oh, it's on Netflix. You had to get the TV guide and go, it's going to be on 2 a.m. on Saturday, Slumber Party. And my friend Chrissy Norton, who was also blonde and blue-eyed and cute and looked like me, and she would come over because Bad Seed's on this weekend. She would come over. We'd have a slumber party, make popcorn, but we would dress up in party dresses and tap shoes and braid our hair. It was like Rocky Horror Picture Show for 9-year-old girls.
Fun.
And we would sit there, get really into watching the Bad Seed and go, what would you give me for a bushel of kisses, basket of kisses, bushel of eggs, and the Excelsior, go sleep on your old Excelsior. And
So creepy.
We were much too into this movie. And so I had the Bad Seed. It was like memorized. So I did have things like that I always liked. I liked villains. I loved, Halloween. So it's like, oh, I'm scary. I'm the villain. Yay. And people do dress up as me for Halloween, which is like the greatest thing for me that in my life, that I know that people dress up as me for Halloween.
That is so
Still,
cool.
I mean, this is 40 years later?
Yeah.
More! 45!
45! Okay.
It is 46.
That's insane.
We had the 45th anniversary last year and did a bunch of parties and events. It is bloody 46.
And still reruns.
I'm 100 years old. I can't even believe it. I'm 9 million years old. It's 46
You're
years.
pretty good looking. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, that guy. I had myself laminated in the 80s. I'm on Facebook every day reading the books, because in March, when my entire life and career was canceled, it's like, no, you're not doing that. I have how many? Look at all these gigs I have. Poof, 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 poof.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Because it's like, oh, they all involve direct contact with large groups of people. Oh, no, we can't do that. So I said, well, what am I going to do? And my husband has like a real job and it got declared essential. So he's like, well, we're not starving. I'm going to work. So yeah, we're okay. I said, yeah, but I've been working since I was 12. Come on. So I started just for something to do. I'm going to go read the Little House on the Prairie books, but in order. I never read them like in order, watching how Laura developed. I'm going to go read the Little House books in order for kids. And then I thought, well, everyone else is bored silly. Why don't I read them on Facebook Live?
Yes.
Oh my God. So every day we get but 1:30, unless I have to do something. Then I say, guys, I'm going to be late. And I put on a bonnet. I have many colors.
She's putting on her cute white bonnet right now for those of you who can't see.
And
So
I have, I've been doing now this, the book we're doing right now is on my Kindle. I did have the whole set, but we're now, currently we've been doing the first 4 years, which is the last book. And then we got through Happy Golden Years, and we've let's see, Charlotte Stewart, who played Miss Beadle, she read one day, Baby Grace read one day, and of course, El Manzo, Dean Butler. He read all of Farmer Boy. We let him have Farmer Boy. And then he went, I want to read The Long Winter, because The Long Winter, Almanzo saves everyone by going to get the weed. So I said, come on. So he read a whole chunk of that. And then, of course, we got into Happy Golden Years, where Laura and Almanzo get married. And I went like, yeah, you're doing the ending. You're doing like this chapter, this chapter. And he's like, I'm in. So he came on. And have you seen Dean Butler? He's very good looking still.
He's handsome.
Very handsome, and he has this very soft voice, and he got right up on that mic, and when it's like Lauren Almanzo in the buggy and he's practically whispering out, I was wondering if you an engagement ring. Well, people were just going, ah, like all over America, watching their Facebook. So yeah, people went wild. So I was like, okay, you're on tomorrow. So he read some, and now I'm reading the first 4 years, which a lot of people don't like the first 4 years. It was a found manuscript that she wasn't going to publish. It has weird flashbacks to other chapters. It's odd. But I've been reading it going, hey, this is way more interesting than I thought it would be. So we're making it work. A lot of people said, oh, I heard this book was boring, but now it isn't, because like it's Alison in a bonnet reading it. So.
Yeah,
It's the best too. And then Dean Butler does like music too. Didn't he have some of his music playing, which is great.
He produced a whole thing, a whole special, Paws Fiddle, where he got all these country performers. And so he's very smart. He's like going, oh, and I have these DVDs that you can, so he's playing his music. So very, very smart.
Yes.
So yeah, I've been selling, bonnets and photos and books online at the store. I've been doing the Cameo thing, the Coach the World thing, stageit.com, which has people do their shows. I go over to that part of the living room where I have a fake brick wall. It's actually made of fabric, but you can't, it looks like a brick wall. And I do my show. I do a stand-up show, but I have to do a half-hour version format. But it's great. So I'm doing that August 6th. So I'm working like that. I'm like in front of the camera going, hi, what am I doing now? Just like all day.
It's amazing. I know we were lucky to book you because I looked at your Facebook page. I'm like, oh, there's no way she's going to be able to do this. And then going on, you have bonnetheads.com as your website. There are about 3 million links of all your projects that you've done, past, present, future. I mean, it's amazing.
And we do a newsletter. We have the Nellie, we'll put you on it, the Nellie newsletter. The Nellie newsletter comes out once a month. My friends call me and go, I just read your newsletter with your schedule and I had to go lie down.
It's wild. I know. You have turned this quarantine into like your best hustle ever. So Liberace would be proud.
Crazy. I was so busy, very busy before. I just come back from France. I had just done an autograph show, like the last autograph show on earth in Arkansas. And I had all this stuff lined up for March, April, May, and summer, the little house sites. I had a tour in France for September, October, plus a gig in Dublin, Ireland. I mean, I was booked for the year, and it was like, and I was quite disconcerting. And I wasn't, and so I started, and now I am doing stuff every day. I'm just a working fool, and I haven't the cooking videos haven't even started yet, but there's the cooking thing.
I was going to ask you about that. So how pioneer are you going now that you're stuck at home? Are you getting into the books? Is it causing you to want to cook more? Are you embracing this whole thing?
Well, I was already a cooking fool. I'm a very good cook. Ask Steve about my Thanksgiving turkeys.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I am a really good cook. I love to cook. And that's where at one point we were sitting around, Bob and I were eating dinner, and we can get takeout here and there. We want to support some of our local restaurants. But we were hearing about all the people who can't go out and like they have food, but like, I don't know they can't cook. They're like stuck. And I said, aren't you glad you're stuck in the house with someone who can cook? And he's like, yeah, this is great. Cause I'm like, all this stuff. The tomatoes, I just picked some. I am growing tomatoes. I occasionally grow tomatoes. I have a bumper crop this year of tomatoes. So caprese salad with the homegrown basil. And I'm not doing, Melissa Gilbert has chickens. Seriously, Melissa Gilbert and her husband, Timothy Busfield, ran up to their little cabin in Catskills, very cute. And then they kind of said, maybe we should just stay here a while, because they were in Manhattan. They're like, let's not go back. So she started planting a little garden. No, she has crops. And then she got chickens. She has baby chickens, so she has a hen house. She's like, and I started teasing her, saying, are you getting a cow? Seriously? And she said, no. I said, well, get a goat. They're easier. She goes, no, just growing some chickens. I said, you're not going back. She goes, well, I don't really know when I'm going back. And then what happened? You saw the stuff with the footage of the people on Fire Island with no social distancing and masks.
Oh my God.
I texted her. I said, I just saw what's happening in Fire Island. Buy the cow. Don't go home.
Don't go home. Stay there. Yes.
And so now she's doing interviews from the farm. She's doing like video and podcasting out from the farm with the chickens.
That's smart.
So I told Bob, I said, no, I'm not really the farm type. I'm not going to do chickens and crops. We'll have the tomatoes. I'm more, kind of urban survivalist.
Yeah.
Yes.
If things go bad, I'm the girl like with the backpack who can smash open the vending machine.
Smart.
So if it's zombie apocalypse, I'm like that person. So we'll eat.
Yeah. I'm coming to you. Yeah.
We need one in every group. This is good. I know. I love all this. I was watching some stuff and yeah, she's got her chickens and farm and you're doing the. So do you think people are getting back into this? I've heard there's like a resurgence of Little House in this time.
Oh,
does it seem like?
craziness.
Yeah.
Well, somebody figured out we had an episode called Quarantine and we had an episode called Plague.
Yes.
We had anthrax. We had anthrax on the prairie. I think it was typhus and anthrax were our two big diseases. But we had, and people are like, there's an episode because they're rerunning it and everyone's home. And there were already, I mean, it's literally never been off the air. It's just been syndication in 140 countries. It's craziness.
Yeah.
But now all these people going, there's an episode called Plague. There's an episode called What is Happening? And they got really into it. And then some very young people on Twitter finally saw the Wisdom of Solomon episode for the very first time. That's the episode. Todd Bridges, who's the children of freed slaves, who, as he says to Paul Ingalls, so would you rather live to be 100 as a black man or live to be 50 and be white? And Paul can't answer him and says, he's got a point. And it is a heavy, heavy episode about racism and the horrible circumstances that Todd Bridges' character is called The Wisdom of Solomon. And this was in the 1970s, this was on. And it's so surprising. So all these people who'd never seen it before going, I am watching this. This is like this Black Lives Matter episode of Little House on the Prairie. What is going on? And a whole new group of people have discovered us, that our show was actually very forward and really talking about all sorts of serious things that people didn't realize.
Right.
Was that was that Michael Landon who was really, that was important to him was?
Yeah, and I mean, we're in the 70s, so remember this was the time of All in the Family and the Jeffersons and all of these new shows exploring all this. So Little House, we're like, well, you know, we're no slackers. And yeah, and it was like, because it's set in the 1800s and it's about, you know, Laura and her pa, we can talk about issues on this show that if it was set in modern day, it would be, oh, controversial, or I'm not going to watch that. But, oh, wait, it's Little House in the Prairie. And maybe they're not talking about me because it's in the 1800s and they're talking about slaves. And like our drug addiction one, where the man comes back from the Civil War and he was injured and he's addicted to morphine and he has shell shock, and it's like, oh, because wait, it's the early 70s and people coming back from Vietnam addicted to heroin. Oh, hey, maybe that what
right.
So smart. That is so smart.
Yeah.
Hey, my name's Paul, and I'm not an animal expert.
I'm Donna, and I'm not an animal expert either.
And together we do a podcast about animals called Varmints.
Every week we pick an animal, do a bunch of research on it, and bring you some interesting facts about that animal.
But we don't stop there. We talk about that animal in movies, TV, and other pop culture.
And we talk about whether or not that animal would make a tasty dish, and how intelligent we think it is on the scale of 1 to 10.
It's exactly like one of those fancy PBS nature documentaries.
Except with more poo jokes.
New episodes go live every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Varmints! Varmints!
Anti-Semitism. Were there any episodes about any LGBTQ things? I don't know.
Yes, because you're big. You're huge in that community.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And, well, we certainly have a lot of gay and lesbian people on the show, but people weren't as out in the 70s. You know, everyone was kind of, but obviously Steve Tracy, who played Percival, my husband on the show, was gay. And he wound up dying of AIDS in 1986. How I met Steve Peters, because I went to volunteer at the AIDS Project, and you see, there you all are. But he went very public with his diagnosis, and it was right after the show. And everyone in the cast really stood by him. So that was a thing. On the show, I always say, you know, when Lauren Almanzo have that boarding house in like the last 2 seasons, and that Mr. Montague guy moves in, they don't say anything, but he's got a whole like Dr. Bombay from Bewitched thing kind of going on. And I think
was that
Mr.
Paul Lind, by the way?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I think Mr. Montague is kind of the not said as such, but kind of like the gay character.
Okay, this is good. So it's all
good to know.
But obviously, I mean, we talk about these things like, you know, Michael Landon's son, Christopher Landon, is out and is a filmmaker. Chris Landon is a director.
He does horror films, right?
He does indeed. And he and his husband have an Instagram account and stuff like that. And so he's talked about that, you know, he and Michael, his dad, didn't get to talk about it because he was very young, but Cindy, Michael's widow, Cindy had told him that you know, she and Michael had talked as he was growing up and said, well, you know, I think Chris might be gay. Well, what do we do? And Michael was like, well, are we not supposed to say anything so we don't upset him? We're supposed to not say anything, right? Unless he tells us. And like, how do we do this? But how do we let him know it's okay? And so, yeah, so Michael was cool.
He was savvy to it all. Yeah.
He always knew. And so, yeah, and he knew who on the crew and who in the cast was gay. And it was, so it was, yeah. And so no, we were a hip place to work. But yeah, now I think if Little House was made now, absolutely there would be some episode where, I don't know, two spinster sisters move into the house and
right.
Right. There, you betcha there'd be something, because by God, it was only because we only went 9 years, or I'm sure we'd have worked it in.
Right. I know. Right. It ended in
it would have happened.
So yeah. So now when you go back and look at, do you watch your old episodes? Do you watch yourself?
I do. I like Little House on the Prairie, and I think Nellie Oleson and Mrs. Oleson are hysterical. Yes. I would probably, if I was never on the show, I would probably tune in occasionally and go, I got to go see this Nellie Oleson thing. I would be into that. But yes, I do. I have episodes I really like. I don't like, it's on at 3, but like if I'm flipping channels and I go, oh yeah, and Bob will go, have we seen this one? Because he hasn't seen. Okay, I swear he'd not seen any of them when we married. We'd been married like a couple of months, and there was some Little House event and I was like, you've seen like 2 episodes, haven't you? So we had to watch some episodes to get now he's seen, like, he's watched marathons and he has favorite episodes and stuff.
You know what's great is that he loves you for who you are, and that's awesome.
I talked about that in the book, that for a long time I really couldn't date anyone who'd like actually seen Little House on the Prairie, because the burden of Nellie Oleson was a little
gone.
It's a big
You know what's weird? Can I ask you, because I heard a story about you in public that people would actually throw things at you and push you. Like they couldn't divide you from the character?
Yeah, the list. Let's see, there was the Easter Fair at, it's now Harvard Westlake School, but I think it was the Westlake, the girls' school. Big fundraiser, Easter Fair, charity thing. And Catherine McGregor and I went and made the horrible mistake of going in costume. My father said it's a bad idea, but somebody at the school knew someone at NBC. So we all went in costume. And
Nellie and her mom.
They would not get our autograph. People hated it. They were Catherine made a little girl cry. She was in Mrs. Olsen costume. And these people brought their kid over and she's like, hello. And the child starts screaming and crying. She's really upset. Not like that at all. And so she's frightening children and no one will talk to us. So I went and got a hot dog and a Slurpee. And then these 2 little girls came running up from behind me and kicked me in the butt and knocked me onto the cement.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Father got me another hot dog and Slurpee and said, we're going home. And I told you not to go in costume. And then I was in the Hollywood the Santa Claus Lane Christmas parade in Hollywood. And it was the height of the show. I was like 16. And someone threw a McDonald's cup of orange soda at my face. Moving target. They got me too. That was very impressive.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
What was that movie? The Weatherman? Was it Nick Cage, the Weatherman?
Oh yeah.
And he gets hit with a shake. Yeah. Like that. Like totally like that.
That's so fascinating that people can't separate that.
Yeah.
It's always been interesting.
Now,
did that bother you?
No, both times I was sort of in shock, but I was like, I must be doing something right. And well, like I talk about the drink in the face, because I said, well, okay, good, it's not a beer bottle because I'd be dead. But that someone was watching the parade and had their drink, and it was like half full. It was like $1.75, a soda left. Someone's watching the parade, and on seeing me instantly is so angry that they just.
That's some good acting.
So what does that say? Right. What kind of performance is this that I have done? And I still have people who are weirded out. And it's been hard on my husband, Bob, and it's been hard on anyone who's been my friend or boyfriend or anything, because they meet people and they go, oh, wait, you know her?
Everyone had a Nellie Oleson in their life.
See, everyone knew it. And that was the thing is, you bet. Oh, there was a girl in elementary school, like 2 girls in elementary school. And then, and this one girl, I mean, she wound up following us all through junior high into high school. And she just drove everyone crazy.
But
and
they would call them Nellie.
And I worked at it. I was like, well, that was kind of like the time. And I did. And I remember this one girl who was particularly annoying. And we're sitting around, and by then it was high school. She'd been annoying us since really like the 5th grade. And I said, if it's any consolation to anyone, I did base parts of Nellie on her. And they're like, thank you. We feel avenged in some way now. Thank you. So yeah, I absolutely, I was more the person who got beat up in school than the Nellie. I was likely to get my head stuck in a toilet or something. So
Wow.
I totally, I knew what that was like and based it on.
So could you put on the character and then turn it off very easily when you went back home too?
Oh yeah, well even on the set it was so weird because as you see I'm generally kind of good natured, like blah, blah, blah. So it's sort of weird that I would turn into this person who's like,
yeah,
I don't think your father has any money and he smells like a horse. Just like what? Katie Kurtzman played little Anna the stuttering girl on Little House on the Prairie, and she later was on Hotel and like a whole bunch of these shows. She's a big star. Katie and I were talking about this because she played Anna the stuttering girl, and that's like the episode where like even I hate me because oh my god, horrible to that poor child. And we're doing the scene. She's like crying and going. I think, "Say Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers." She's going, "Peter Piper," but I can't hear you. I was like really sick. And when we're shooting this and she's sobbing and I'm so horrible, and then they would say cut and I would go, great. So like after work, do you want to go get like Slurpees at the 7-Eleven and go back to what we were talking about? And then it's like, oh, actually, okay, Anna can't talk. And I just, and we were talking about this recently and Katie said, I was very trained little child actress and I would really get worked up into the thing of the stuttering and the crying. And she said, I don't know what that was. What was that? Demonic possession? They threw a switch and you like turned into this person. And then they'd like say cut and you go, so anyway, like, she said it was freaky. I'm like, I don't know. That's
a gift in that it didn't trickle into your life. I mean, that's good acting, I must say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm sure everybody asked you these questions. Do you want a few questions from our listeners? Because they did write in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
Could
of
we
course.
good,
yes.
good. Okay. So we kind of covered this. Corey wanted to know, did you like playing the villain? It sounds like you did. Was it hard being mean all the time? You can turn it off and on. We got that. Harriet Olsen, was your mom, was she like mean, the actress, Catherine McGregor? No.
Catherine McGregor was not mean. She was extraordinarily eccentric. Okay. She was kind of bananas. She's a very funny woman. Oh, that woman. So she was very independent. I mean, we used to say, yes, people say she married. Well, no, she was married 4 times. No survivors. She was she was very opinionated, like Mrs. Olsen. She was kind, but she was very opinionated. She was the kind of person, where are my glasses? Have you seen my glasses? You've looked at my glasses. They're on you. They're not on my head. Do not tell me my glasses. Yeah, that kind. A lot of that. She had a Fiat, and she would drive at like 80, 90 miles an hour to work. Because we had back then the freeway that went out to our location wasn't even finished. It was like 6 lanes to nowhere, so you could really go nuts. And she would get pulled over, but she would argue the ticket with the police. Like she was, so she was kind of argumentative, but she was very funny. But talk about shirt off the back. She took us kids to the movies all the time, but we couldn't have any concessions. She brought health food candy. We couldn't have the bad candy. It's not good for you. But she took in stray people and animals. As we said, she took in a lot of stray animals where she had birds and things. And when she was living at her condo, it's a fabulous condo, she was at late, like she, because I always wanted her to come down to AIDS Project Los Angeles summer parties. And if you came out on stage, because I had the comedy stage there, they would tear the place up. She said, well, just send my love, send my love. Meanwhile, at her building, so this guy down the hall, she figures out is not doing so well. And she realizes that he is sick and he has AIDS and he's not really getting a lot of visitors. And she goes and bangs on this guy's door and says, hi, look, I already know you're sick and clearly you have no one taking care of you. I can cook, I can clean, I can this, and I will come and clean your apartment and cook all your meals and drive you to the doctor.
Aww.
For you. And then she did. And she took care of him and drove him to everything. And they became great friends to the day he died. And then a couple months later, somebody else moved in and she took care of him. Did the same. Volunteered for an organization, just did it. And she was always like, there was I'd go over and there'd be like somebody living at her condo. Oh, this is my friend. She's from India and she's just here. And then like, what's the dog? Well, I found him. And then, so yeah, she was absolutely stray people and animals and taking care of the sick. She was very involved in the Vedanta, the ashram in Hollywood. Her license plates at Om Shanti Om. And she went to India on pilgrimages and was very involved with the whole Swami Chetananda, who did the translations of the original Swami Vivekananda works.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that. That's
how you pronounce that.
Catherine McGregor. Okay. And I met Chetananda and I have autographed copies of some of Chetananda's books. She took me to meet him.
Wow.
There you go.
When you were young, like this was That's
Yeah,
really
it's like
good schooling.
14, 15, and she was giving me like cradle tales of Hinduism and stuff to read.
Yeah, I was watching the Smurfs or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
Catherine
amazing.
Greger was an extraordinarily unusual and interesting person. But no, she wasn't mean like Mrs. I remember she laughed so hard. One of her many, bigoted episodes where she's being evil to people. And it was when she was trying to keep Joe Kagan, the black guy, out of church. And Mrs. Olson's going on about God as we're made in God's image, and she said, "Yes, and God is a white man, so we can't possibly." I was like, "Oh," and she almost couldn't do it because she was laughing so hard. And she said, "I'm sorry. I mean, Mrs. Olson's such a racist." She said, "But it's also cracking me up because in my religion, God's a black woman." So.
Oh. Yes.
And I was
That's
like, "What
awesome.
about arms, if I recall?" Yeah. Okay. Hi. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. There
That
you
is
go.
so interesting.
Okay, I mean, this is kind of terrible, but it's funny. So when she passed away just a couple years ago, I mean, she was in her 90s, and she had finally moved into the motion picture home. She was like, "I'm a bunch of actors talking shop. I don't want to live in my own place." But then finally her doctor said, "Oh, for heaven's sake, go." So she moved into the actors home, and it wound up being the same week that Richard Bull, who played Nels, he moved because Richard Bull, he and his wife had reservation. They said, "Oh yeah, when we retire, we're totally moving to the motion picture home." And they had made arrangements and had that. So they move in and it all been planned. And then she last minute is like, "Oh, I guess I have to go." And like, boom, they're there the same week.
You're
Oh
kidding.
my gosh.
So imagine you're in your 80s or 90s and perhaps on medication, and you go into the cafeteria and there's Nels and Harriet in line bickering about, and you're like,
It makes no sense.
Is it the
So
is
she
it the
did
meds?
She
It came
passed away a couple years ago, and I felt like so many fans. Of course, people loved her, and so people were posting, "Oh, yes, she's in heaven now." And I was like, I didn't have the heart to tell them. I said, "Well, actually, she's probably already back."
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very firm believer in reincarnation.
that's
and
right.
This is true.
So I said, "Heaven, she's been back for weeks." I thought,
Yeah. She's nowhere. She's right here. That's
it's like here. I don't know.
Oh,
And her character went to hell, as we
Yeah.
know.
So that was for Dana. So there you go, Dana. This one is from my son, Elliot. He wanted to know what your real friends thought of you, or did they treat you differently after you became Nellie? Was it hard to make and keep friends? We kind of talked about that, but
I am so relieved that I kept my friends from school, because I was going to school, as I said, I'm talking about like the Nellies who follow me. I had a group of friends from about the third grade, went third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then half went to one junior high after, but most of us, my little group, went to the same junior high, and then most of that group went on to Hollywood High. So I had people in junior high when I got the show who stayed my friends in junior high, stayed my friends in high school, who I'd known since the third grade.
okay.
So they really did not care that I was on a TV series. I was Nellie Oleson. They so did not care. I was me. And it was also LA. Everybody, somebody's uncle was a newscaster, somebody's dad was a producer. There's a girl, her mom was in The Fifth Dimension, I think. So everybody knew somebody in the business. So it was like, yeah, whatever. They were impressed. So thank God, because the biggest thing for a lot of child actors is isolation. They leave school and they don't go back. They stay just going to school and they don't go back to their regular school and their friends. And they hang out and they go, "Well, I'm too famous. I can't see them anymore." And they go crazy. Or they get on a show where they're the only kid on the show. Terrible idea. Do not do that. Do not do that for children. So keep their friends. We were on a little house. We had like 30, 40 kids in the schoolroom. So we had a whole clique of kids there and cast of thousands of children. And then when on hiatus, I'd go back and I'd see my friends who could not be less impressed that I was Nellie Oleson. So this meant I had some normal life. Yeah.
Okay, that concludes part 1 of our interview with Alison Arngrim, Nellie Oleson from Little House on the Prairie. We will put all of the links that we talked about in our show notes in the description below, as well as on our website, mouseandweens.com/show notes. Please follow us on all our social media, also at mouseandweens.com, spell it all out, Mouse and Weens, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, lots of other good things, and find us on Patreon too, and skip those commercials. All right, tune back in part 2, coming soon. Thanks.